So almost a week ago today, as I'm recording this video, the Denver Nuggets eliminated the Portland Trailblazers in the first round of the 2021 playoffs in 6 games. And since this, the entire question of the Trailblazers' future has been in question. They fired their head coach Terry Stotts, and I think as NBA fans, we're all starting to agree that the Blazers aren't going to be able to have tremendous success and be able to make a run for the championship with this core group of players that they have right now. And because of this, and how we all think that the best option for the Blazers moving forward would be to start a rebuild, there have been many questions about Damian Lillard and whether or not he's going to get traded this offseason. Now, I think trading Dame would be very good, not only for the Blazers to start their rebuild, but also for Damian Lillard, and I honestly think it makes a lot of sense for him to get traded. I think there's a legitimate possibility that you'll see him be moved this offseason. So what I'm going to be doing in today's video is going through 5 different trade possibilities and mock trades of Damian Lillard and some possible teams he could go to and what trades those would look like. So before we get started, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my new NBA videos. I'm posting tons of NBA content, especially during the playoffs, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos. With that being said, let's get into it. So ironically, the first mock trade I have here is one that would send Damian Lillard to the Denver Nuggets. I think he'd fit really well on the Nuggets, so the Nuggets would be getting Damian Lillard, and in return, the Blazers would be receiving Jamal Murray, Bol, Marcus Howard, a 2021, a 2024, and the 2026 first round pick from the Nuggets. So when we look at Dame and how he would fit on the Denver Nuggets, he would be that second superstar that I think they've been searching for a while. Unfortunately, they would have to give out Jamal Murray, but they would be definitely getting an upgrade in Damian Lillard, and a Lillard and Jokic duo would obviously be absolutely insane and work pretty much just like a Murray and Jokic duo like we've seen it with the Nuggets over the past few years, but just that much better because they have Damian Lillard. Obviously, a Jokic and Dame pick and roll would be absolutely insane. We both know that both of them can shoot the 3. Dame is also a really underrated playmaker. He's averaged 7 assists over the course of this season, and he would be a great duo mate for Jokic. They could run a lot of pick and pops. They could also run a lot of screen and rolls where Jokic is getting the ball driving to the basket, or Dame is pulling up for a 3. And the best part about this trade for the Nuggets is how they wouldn't have to give up Michael Porter Jr., their future star, and you could argue him as the current star. And just imagine the spacing on this team too, with Jokic, Dame, and MPJ. When they're off the ball, they have lethal shooting. All of them can shoot over 40% from 3 when they're at their best, and overall it'd just be such an amazing trio, and this Nuggets team would really be pushing for that championship if they were to make this deal. Now, going the other way, I think Murray would be a great piece for the Blazers to start building their future around. He's obviously very dominant at times when it comes to his scoring. He's sometimes inconsistent, but he'll be able to work on that with the Blazers. He's obviously an amazing playoff performer, as we saw in the 2020 bubble, and guys like Bol and Marcus Howard, both of these guys haven't had a lot of playing time at all this season, but it's no doubt that both of these guys have loads of potential. If you guys watch my channel, you know I'm a huge fan of Bol. I've made lots of videos on him on the channel up until the playoffs, where I've been making a lot of playoff content. I would make a video every single month about Bol and why I think he should play or his situation, and I definitely think he could develop into a star one day if he gets the right development. He has loads of talent. He's obviously 7'2" and can shoot, which is obviously extremely rare, so he could turn into something special and be a really good role player for this Blazers team. And obviously Marcus Howard has lots of potential too, and he's shown, especially over the last few days, even performing for the Nuggets in the playoffs a little bit. He's a great playmaker, a 3-level scorer, he can create his own shot, and is a great shooter as well. So Jamal Murray would be a great piece for this team as kind of one of their core pieces moving down the future, and Marcus Howard and Bol could be very good role players for them and potentially develop into star-like players one day. And then obviously the 3 picks as well. This would be good for the Blazers' future to really start their rebuild. So overall, I think this is a great trade for both teams and all the players involved. This next mock trade here is by far the most interesting of the video, something that a lot of NBA fans have been talking about a lot right now. It might not be that realistic, but it's Damian Lillard going to the Los Angeles Lakers, and this trade doesn't seem that realistic because the Lakers would really take a big hit to their depth. Now, it does work financially, so that would be good, and it is definitely possible, and the opportunity kind of is presenting itself for this crazy trade to happen and form a big 3 of LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Damian Lillard. So the Lakers would be getting Dame along with Zach Collins, mostly for financial purposes, and the Blazers would be receiving Talen Horton-Tucker, Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Kuzma, a 2021 first-round pick, 2023 second-round pick, and a 2025 first-round pick. So as I mentioned, the Lakers would become another powerhouse, and LeBron's getting older, as we've seen throughout the last few weeks as well, with his performance in the playoffs and also Anthony Davis being injured. So this team is aging a little bit, and if they want to have another run at a championship, getting Dame would obviously help that. It would form an amazing big three, along with a good role player in Zach Collins to help their defense out a little bit, and depth if he can get healthy. And overall, this team would just be absolutely insane on the offensive end of the floor. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Now for the Blazers here, they wouldn't be getting any stars, but they'd be getting tons of young talent. Taylor Horton-Tucker, Harrell, Schroeder, and Kyle Kuzma are all players that some of them haven't performed very well in the playoffs, and Montrezl Harrell didn't even get that much playing time in the playoffs, but this would be an opportunity for all of these guys to thrive. I feel like at least one of them is going to average 20 points per game in the next upcoming season, and because of how they have more opportunities, these guys are going to thrive in these situations. And unfortunately for the Blazers, this would leave them without any true stars other than maybe CJ McCollum, but like I mentioned, it would really improve their future and also their depth. And also, if they want to make this a quick rebuild, and if they're contending in maybe 2 or 3 years, they could even use some of these guys and some of these picks as trade assets to maybe even get a star of their own in the future. But like I mentioned, it'd be great for their depth, great for their future, and these picks too, even like one like 2025 could be really valuable for them if by that time the Lakers dynasty is way over and they could be one of the worst teams in the NBA, and by that time the Blazers could be getting a pretty good pick there. So overall, they're getting 4 young players and 3 picks in this trade, and it would be really good to start their rebuild. This next trade would send Damian Lillard to the New York Knicks. I've been saying the whole time this season that even though the Knicks didn't get out of the first round, they still have a great core, a great defense, and I think they're 1 star away from being legitimate contenders, and this would definitely make them legitimate contenders. They'd be getting Damian Lillard, and the Blazers would be getting back RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, Alec Burks, Obi Toppin, and a 2022 top 5 protected first round pick. Now, when we look at what the Knicks are getting here in Damian Lillard, they would get that main superstar who would obviously be the focal point of their offense. They're losing a little bit of defense here, but we saw how they were the number 1 defense in the NBA this season, even without Mitchell Robinson. So I think they'll be fine as long as they're coached by Tom Thibodeau, and then they'll have a guy that can really go get them a bucket really consistently down the stretch in Damian Lillard. And I know Dame hasn't been thought of as a great playoff performer throughout his career, but we've seen throughout the last few years, especially in 2019 and especially this year, that he's really starting to turn the corner and become a good playoff performer. And I think he's be exactly what this Knicks team needs to get over that hump and be legitimate contenders, and have a guy that can really consistently go get them a bucket down the stretch in the biggest games of the season. So this would be amazing for them to pair up Damian Lillard with their second star now in Julius Randle, who would be very good, I think, in a second star type of role. So they would be legitimate contenders now that they have Dame, and the Blazers would be getting back here RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson, 2 very good players who are also very good defensively. The Blazers are desperate for defense right now, and I know they'd be going into a rebuild, but RJ is a good wing defender, and that's exactly what they need right now to start their rebuild. And Mitchell Robinson, if they keep Yusuf Nurkic, Mitchell Robinson would be coming off their bench, but would be a really consistent backup center for them, especially defensively. They get a great shooter in Alec Burks, and a young player with lots of potential in Obi Toppin. The 2022 top 5 protected first round pick is just to throw it on there, just so they can have another piece for their future down the road, unless it's in the top 5. But overall, they'll be getting a lot here, especially if RJ Barrett's the main point of their focal point of their offense, along with CJ McCollum. He could have a lot of very valuable growth here, and we know that he really improved his shooting this year. If he's playing off the ball, that would be very good for the Blazers as well. And if he's the focal point of their offense, he's probably going to average anywhere from 23 to maybe even 25 points per game. If he gets an opportunity like this, I think this is where we could see RJ thrive and really turn into the star that we've all expected him to be, and what he's shown a little bit of flashes of this year. Like I mentioned, Mitchell Robinson would continue to do what he does on the defensive side of the floor. Then you've got a shooter and floor spacer in Burks, a high potential player on both ends of the floor in Obi Toppin, who can play his role in the first few seasons of this rebuild of coming off the bench, providing some energy and some shooting, and also a 2022 first round pick. So overall, again, I think this would be really good for both teams. The 4th trade I have here is one that would send Dame to the Heat. They would create a big 3 of Damian Lillard, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. So the Heat would be getting Dame, and going the other way would be Tyler Hero, Precious Achiuwa, Goran Dragic, Nemanja Bjelica, and first round picks in 24, 25, and 26. So for the Heat here, they would be getting a guy that they really need. This is a superstar type of player that could get them back into the finals potentially, and we saw this year how Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo were really exposed and showed that they really couldn't be the top two stars on a championship contending team anymore because they can't shoot the three. But Dame would be this guy that could not only go and get them a bucket down the stretch and be amazing in ISO, but shoot their three really consistently and make it a lot harder for teams to defend this team, because now they have a little bit more spacing and really have to press up Dame, because we know that his range is absolutely incredible. This would open up the floor for another shooter like Duncan Robinson and allow Jimmy to operate a little bit easier too in his ISO game when he's scoring around the rim, in the mid-range, and everything like that. It would create a lot more space for Bam as well when he's in the post, looking for certain passes to make, and overall this offense for the Heat would just flow so much better, kind of like it did in 2019. And they wouldn't be having to give up that much too. They wouldn't be having to give up one of their core guys in Jimmy or Bam. They'd be giving up Tyler Hero, who despite his really disappointing playoff performance this year, still has lots of potential, so I'm sure the Blazers would be happy to get him. A guy in Precious Achiuwa who could really develop into a valuable traditional type of starting center one day. He has great energy on the defensive side of the floor as well. Nemanja Bjelica, who's more of a role player, can knock down the occasional three. Goran Dragic, who could really be the leader for this team and also in the first few years be their starting point guard and be a mentor for some of their more young players as they start their rebuild. He was also in this trade to make it work financially as well. He's making $18 million, so he would be going to the Blazers. And the biggest part of this trade here is the 2024, 2025, and 2026 first round picks. 3 first round picks in a row for the Portland Trail Blazers, and this is in 3 years from now when the Heat, we don't know how good they'll be, and my guess is after having a championship caliber team like this, they won't be probably that good in these years, so these could be pretty valuable picks down the road in the future for the Blazers as well. The last trade I have here would really make a team maybe even the favorite to win the championship, and this would be sending Damian Lillard to the Philadelphia 76ers. They'd be getting him along with Harry Giles to kind of make it work a little bit more evenly financially, and the Blazers would be receiving Ben Simmons, Tyrese Maxey, Shake Milton, a 2021 first and a 2023 first. So for the Sixers, they'd be getting a second star along with Joel Embiid and Damian Lillard. Both of these guys, they could go in one-on-one matchups, whether it's Dame on the perimeter, Embiid in the post doing what he always does, and now he has a little bit more spacing with Dame instead of Ben Simmons, which would be really valuable for Embiid and make it much easier for him to operate on the offensive side of the floor. And that would also be one of the most lethal pick and roll duos in the NBA. You've got Dame with his playmaking ability, his limitless range and incredible shooting ability, and then Embiid with his screening ability, his ability to roll to the basket and get inside buckets really easily, and also his ability to pop out to the three-point line and now consistently knock down that shot. Overall, Dame going to the Sixers would be incredible for their offense, way better option for them than Ben Simmons, since Dame can also shoot as a much more valuable pick and roll partner. And then defensively, they would be losing a lot in Ben Simmons, and Dame doesn't bring much defensively, but this would really be good for a guy like Matisse Thybulle, because now he can get a lot more minutes, probably play like 30 minutes per game for this team, and really take on the role that Ben Simmons had this year of being their main perimeter defender, being very versatile, and always taking on the task of guarding the other team's best player. So getting Dame would be a big upgrade for the Sixers instead of Ben Simmons, and they would have a plan to bring Thybulle in for some more minutes, for some more defense with Ben Simmons out. And now for the Blazers here, they're getting a guy in Simmons who they could really need, because the Blazers really need some defense right now, and a guy who's young, can develop a little bit more as well in Ben Simmons, and if he gets even the slightest jump shots, he's going to be one of the best players in the NBA. You've got Maxey, who's shown tons of promise this year on both ends of the floor, can kind of control the offense for this team off the bench sometimes, provide some really consistent 3-level scoring as well. Shake Milton, who's a great perimeter defender and showed how good he is offensively this season, putting up around 13 points per game, and then a 2021 and 2023 first round pick. Again, another trade that would really kickstart the Blazers rebuild and make the Sixers maybe favorites to win the NBA championship. So there you have it. That is the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below what your favorite mock trade was, and if you think Damian Lillard's going to get traded, and if so, where he's going to get traded. If you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos, and I'll see you all next video.